Hello, Erin. Thank you for being with me
Hi,
today. How are
thanks for
you?
having me.
Yeah.
Doing great, minus the Minnesota weather today.
Yes. Snow in April. I love that.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, to all of our viewers, I want to introduce you to Erin Mies. She has had a successful career in human resources at companies like General Mills, which is where I met her, and Land O'Lakes. And she is now running an HR consulting company called People Spark that she co-founded with Kjirsten Ireland. And one of the things I love is their mission, and it's all about transforming companies through their culture. So in addition to running this company, she is the mom to 3 kids, ages 8, 6, and 4, and also 2 dogs.
Yes.
And so the reason I have her here today is I recently listened to a video that she did as part of the videos that People Spark offers. And she shared a feedback technique that I loved. And she was talking about it, how to use it in the workplace, but shared that it is also a great technique to use in other settings for parents, for educators, and other caregivers. And so one of the things that is awesome about Erin, Kjirsten, and PeopleSpark is that they're not only good at giving really great strategic advice, but they also offer practical tips and tools that we can use immediately. So like at the end of this video, you'll be able to put in place and try what Erin's going to share with us. So Erin, if you could start by just kind of setting the stage and helping us understand what is the importance and the value and the impact of giving constructive feedback versus reacting in the moment, emotionally yelling things like stop, and what happens when we don't give feedback like that. So can you talk about the
Yes.
importance?
Yes, so absolutely. So I thought about this, and really what struck me is that as we've worked with clients, as we've worked with managers or supervisors, and even now, even as a parent, when we've seen there's a lot of times where we just haven't seen really good examples of people being able to give constructive, honest feedback that isn't hurtful in some way. So that unlike the yelling, that's really just kind of reactionary. And so we don't necessarily learn how to do it or how it can work and how effective it can be. And similarly, when we see or have modeled before us that we just avoid those things because they might feel scary, then we don't learn how to do it either. And so when I learned about this several years ago, it was a huge aha for me, because before, whenever it came to constructive feedback of team members of my own or of peers that I needed to give feedback to, or even just at home, it always felt as though I could feel my heart racing. I could feel like the blood kind of coming up to my face, and I would struggle for words, and I would struggle to take the emotion out of the situation to really think about the message I was trying to communicate. And so this technique has really helped me to formulate those words and formulate that message so that it's something that is specific enough that allows the person that I'm talking to, whether it's a kid, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a coworker or a client, that allows for them to very clearly know where I'm coming from, and specifically if there's something that needs to change.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think the emotional, when there's a lot of emotion, it makes it really
Yes.
hard. And so it takes practice
Yes.
to have it so that it's a go-to technique, especially when you're emotional. So if you could tell us about the BIT technique, BIT, that you use and how it works, that would be awesome.
Yes. And so it's fun because we have figured out a way that regardless of any speaking engagement Kjirsten and I do with People Spark, we always find a way to bring this in.
Okay.
So the technique is called BIT, and it stands for Behavior, Impact, Tomorrow. And what it allows is, so think about it as a framework. So if I'm giving you feedback around, if you were late in doing something, what specifically is the behavior that I'm trying to address? So if we were talking or even talking about a child or a spouse or a coworker, drill down. So take the emotion out. I'm mad right now. Well, take that out for a second and really think about what specific behavior was it that I am frustrated about? What specifically happened? And generally it might just be a sentence. It might be a little bit more than that. It might be even less, but what specifically, and that's a key part here. And then we go into impact. And impact is really where a lot of the power is, because what we often do with feedback is share, here's the behavior. We might even share the behavior. So we might start off really well, and then we'll just say, I didn't like that you were late in providing this to me. Please stop. But we forget that impact in the middle and what it's done. So if I think of, with my kids, one of the things we often are talking about is, I need you to use your words. Okay. So, okay, we started off pretty well, but I may or may not sometimes forget to put the impact in here. When you forget to use your words, when you forget to use your big boy voice, and all I hear then is that you need something, but it's hard for me to understand what it is that you need.
Mm-hmm.
So when we take that time, we add that impact part in there, and now we move into the T for tomorrow around, what do I need to see going forward?
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about this is that it works so well with, again, taking the emotion out of constructive feedback. And it's something that you can use to give recognition and praise even more powerfully, to be able to say, I love how you didn't react when your sister prodded you on something, and how you looked at her directly in the eyes and used a calm voice to explain what you needed. That is really helpful. So the impact would be, that helps to model what it looks like to be a really kind person. And I am so proud of you right now. So there's ways that you can even make that, and think about the praise that you can offer up to someone, and make it even more powerful too.
That is awesome. And, so that impact is really the why, and
Yes.
is so powerful, because now it's not just you saying, stop this behavior. It helps them understand from another person's perspective, or outcomes that might happen, why it's so important, and that you're not just yelling at them, you're not just being mean.
Yeah.
You're actually, there's good reason behind that. So that is
Yes.
awesome. Can you share with us a little bit more about how we might practice this, or how we might put it into practice with respect to things like timing, or alignment with other adult partners? I imagine if your child is throwing a tantrum, that might not be the moment to try to do this in the height of that tantrum. But can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. In fact, this happened just last night with my oldest, where he was really upset and angry about something right before bedtime, and one of his reactions caused something to fall out of my medicine cabinet and then broke. And he was just beside himself, because then he was upset as well that he had done something destructive. And so when I went in, I didn't go in right away. I just kind of stayed out of it so I could collect my thoughts. So take a moment, take that pause to collect your thoughts. Because was I really mad at him at that point? No. That was an accident, but that was an accident caused by a reaction. And so that was where that teachable moment was for us. And so in that conversation that we had, I was able to share with him a little bit around, it's okay to be angry and it's okay to be upset. And then get into some of the bits. So when you feel like you need to take those things out in a way like that, it can be destructive. And so tonight, that the what we saw as a result of that is this. So, and then I could help even use the T to help reinforce, to say, it's okay to be angry and it's okay to be upset. Let's find another way to use that, and to get that out of our system, and to express that, just because especially right now, there's so many big feelings happening, that it's just so important for us to take that extra moment to think, is it really what I'm seeing, or is there something going on deeper? So I always advise, especially in the working world, I advise managers, like, don't react right there in that moment. Give yourself the space, give yourself a cue, whether it's a couple of deep breaths. Think about think about, okay, get after the behavior, take the emotion out. If you have an opportunity to even write those down while you are learning the framework, write down a couple of things. It might not be even a full sentence, but write down the behavior, write down the impact, because what this will force you to do is really get specific on it. And truly, is that something that needs to be reacted to and given feedback about? Or is this just my own personal reaction, my own personal emotion?
Yeah, a lot of things that I love that you talked about there, and two that I just want to point out. And one is, love the message around it's okay to be angry. One of the things that is so important is that we normalize all emotions, and the ability
Yes.
to feel all emotions and to talk about all emotions. They're not good or bad, they just are how we're feeling. And so to be able to validate that, right when you're angry, I get it, you're angry, that's okay. And then to move forward like you did with, what can we do differently next time, right? That doesn't have the same impact we just talked about. The other thing that I love that you talked about is, how we show up matters, for our kids or coworkers or the other people we're with. And so making sure that we're in the right frame of mind, that we're in a place that we can deliver that feedback so that it's effective, and maintain or continue to build that relationship is so critical. And so whether it is a pause, a short or a long one, whether it's a stepping away, whether it's a writing things down, finding a way, if you need to, pause and then come back to it.
Yeah.
I think that's just huge. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, this to me is like a yoga practice, right? It's something that continues to evolve, and it's something that we continue to learn how to use. So I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There's days and moments where I go from behavior straight to, like, we're going right on to timeout, because everybody's emotions are high, but it's that practice and coming back to it, that it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
But you can still take that moment to go through it, and what you're doing is helping to also set that example for your kids, that it's okay to get feedback, and that this is a great way to help model that for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I both love and hate the phrase feedback is a gift, because when you are getting it, it doesn't feel like a very nice gift.
Right.
But
Right.
there's always some kind of wisdom in that feedback. So helping our kids learn to accept feedback, even when it's especially when it's really hard, doesn't only help them now, but helps them as they continue to move through life and eventually enter the workforce and enter relationships with other adults. And so, yeah, really important. The other thing that's so important that you talked about is practice, and that I am a firm believer that it is not about practice makes perfect. And you talked about that.
Right.
I think it's practice makes progress, and over time, practice makes habits. And so
Yes.
where we can turn practices into habits so that they become almost unconscious, or maybe they become unconscious fully, and it's just a part of how we operate, that's when the magic can really happen.
Mhm.
So anything else you want to share with us about this topic, Erin?
I think the big thing that I'd leave you with, in addition to just the bit, is just that specificity and getting specific. So that I liken it to the difference between asking your kids to go clean up
Mm.
versus asking them to find all the garbage, find all the dirty socks, find all, whatever it is in your family. Find all of those things and put them either in the garbage can or down the laundry chute, whatever it is, but to be specific on that behavior before you get into the impact and into that tomorrow.
That is fantastic. Thank you. And if people want to learn more about People Spark, how do they find you?
Great question. They find us through our website. So we have a presence out at www.peoplesparkconsulting.com. We're also, you can find us on Facebook and on LinkedIn as well. And Kjirsten and I are happy to offer up more information and answer questions if people have any.
Perfect. And I will put more information in the description for people to just be able to click on links. But thank you
Awesome.
so much. Really, really appreciated all this amazing wisdom and advice that we can now,
Thank you.
when this video is done, we can go use it right away. Thank
Awesome. Thank you.
you. Take care.
Thanks. You too.